In light of the fact that Mental Illness Awareness Week is October 2nd to 8th this year, although I feel calling it Mental Health Awareness is probably a better label, but regardless, with that in mind and the fact that today is actually my 26th birthday, I thought why not combine the ideas and share with you guys the top 6 least commonly known misconceptions about mental illness or your mental health that I've learned in the last 26 years. Because let's be real, if I listed 26 things, that'd get kind of long and boring. So please do stick around to learn a few things that you might not know about your mental health.
An idea
could escape.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Hello everyone, welcome back to ALifeLearned. My name is Becca and I figured I'd start off with the least significant misconceptions and move into the more significant, less commonly known ones. So starting off with number 6, when it comes to PTSD, many people feel that they're experiencing anxiety as a comorbid symptom, and in some ways you are, but what you're actually experiencing is hypervigilance, which is a very specific type of anxiety that is very particular to those who have been traumatized. And understanding that it's actually hypervigilance and not just anxiety can really help you in getting proper treatment for it. So definitely something to keep in mind if you happen to have experienced trauma yourself or know someone who's experienced trauma and is dealing with anxiety. It might actually very much be hypervigilance, and better to know that in terms of trying to address it. Number 5, this is very connected to something super fresh in my life, but I've come to learn that controlled breathing can actually be one of the simplest and yet most impactful ways to address your depression and your anxiety and to take control of your nervous system, which is what's going out of whack when you're having anxiety issues and panic attacks. There are many different types of structured breathing exercises that you can try. A lot of them are offered with different yoga classes, but the main idea is that different breathing patterns are associated with different types of moods and mental states. So if you take control of your breathing, you can thus take control of your nervous system in many ways and help yourself calm down in that way. So if you know anyone who's got a lot of anxiety problems or just a lot of issues in controlling their mental health right now, suggest that they try some controlled breathing exercises. It could be very helpful for them, as most anything related to meditation can be when it comes to your mental health. Number 4, very related to a video I did late last year, abusers aren't just jerks or people who are hateful and negative, but actually those who are dealing with mental health issues. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not excusing their behavior. Everyone is responsible for what they do. At the same time, if something that is happening to you is as a result of your mental illness, you certainly do deserve more empathy and help. But that doesn't excuse your behavior. You're still responsible for what you did. Abusers are still very responsible for everything they do. They shouldn't do it. But mental illnesses can lead people into becoming abusive, and those who are abusive simply aren't in their right mind. No person in their right mind, as we term it, would ever want to hurt or deliberately harm another person repeatedly. And in terms of someone dealing with mental illness, if they do find that their illness is causing them to start behaving abusively towards others, it is their responsibility to try and stop that somehow, to seek help, to change the environment, to change their circumstances so that they don't behave that way. Everyone's behavior is their own responsibility, but we can all only change it with empathy, help, and understanding from other people. And thus, as I've said in an old video, which I will link below if anyone's interested, abusers do deserve empathy. They are mentally ill and they can be helped if they want to be helped and if people want to help them. They're not just evil people, because evil isn't a real world concept. It's just a model of psychology. And thus, if someone is abusive in some way or another, they are dealing with a mental illness. And this is actually very much related to number 3. That is that mental illness is actually a gray scale. It is not as simple as black and white. You are mentally ill or you aren't. Mental illness is not as straightforward as broken bones, though a lot of analogies have tried to explain that it is just as important as a broken bone and should be treated as significantly. It's not as easily measured. You can physically see a lot of physical illnesses, but when it comes to your mental illness, it's only out of personal reports, out of subjective experiences. We describe that we're paranoid, but that's our version of paranoid. We describe that we're depressed. That is our version of depression. Yes, there are very similar symptoms, and the idea is that when it comes to mental illness, the symptoms aren't black and white, simply they are there or they aren't. They vary. The symptoms themselves are on an exceptionally large gray scale, and with that, a lot of people in the world are a lot more of a shade of gray of mental illness than they really think they are, because the idea of mental illness is an experience you're having with your mental state that disrupts your life. And a lot of people experience disruption in interacting with other people or in the world in general, and they attribute it to simply just not getting along with others or being weird or some other type of social problem, when really it's that they're dealing with some gray scale of mental illness and can get a lot of help for it if they recognize it that way and don't see it as a weakness. We all have times in our lives where our situations can cause us to become mentally ill. But in that very way, we can heal from it by recognizing it like that and addressing it like that. And in some ways, this is related to number 2, in that, believe it or not, even professionals don't actually think this, but we are actually very early on in our development of mental health understanding in the mental health sector of medicine. As I was just saying in the last point, mental health is a lot more of a gray scale than is very commonly understood, even among professionals. And even though we are seeing a lot of accommodations popping up in schools and in workplaces and in society, they're only really just beginning. They're just in their infancy of development and understanding. There are actually a significant number of mental illnesses that are hardly understood at all, and a lot of people are struggling very isolated and alone with because there's little understanding to them. But this brings me to the number 1 misconception that I don't think very many people know about in terms of society, and that is that our current societal structure is creating a lot of the mental illnesses that we deal with today. This is, of course, an explanation for why some illnesses aren't as well known about, because they're sort of early in their occurrence. But at the same time, that also presents that instead of just recognizing our mental illnesses and getting medications or getting therapy and trying to treat it or cope with it that way, we should really be looking at the root causes of them and stopping them before they develop. A lot of the mental health community is structured around coping and support and understanding and empathy and, of course, compassion. And that is excellent. Of course, we need that. But something that is really needed to be understood a lot more is that the way we live is in many ways creating our illnesses. The isolation in society, the inability to just talk to your fellow neighbor and feel like you're part of the community, or that you have someone you can turn to who cares about your well-being and can help you, has such an incredibly huge impact on someone's overall mental health. The stress and the pressures that we put in a lot of different jobs that really aren't necessary today, but are just a way of making money. Again, a huge source of anxiety, and the depression that many people experience that's occurring in younger and younger ages as generations move on is very, very much the result of the isolation and the lack of overall connection that we're experiencing in our society. Our consumerist and selfish mentalities that are very much set on getting what I need and screw the other guy because he should just make sure he has what he needs. If he didn't, that's his fault. Well, that mentality in and of itself is creating a cycle of depression where we're destroying ourselves slowly. We are a species of community. We get along better, we're healthier, and we build and prosper more when we help each other. But that's not the way our society is structured right now. Every man for himself at the moment, and it's not helping us. It's making us sick. So, if that's something that you think others should know, I really highly suggest that you share that, because I don't think very many people consider just how much their mental illness might be coming out of the environments that they face every day. And if you'd like me to expand any further on any of the ideas that I listed in this video, please feel free to write that in the comments below, and I will happily do a video in the future about any one of the subjects that I listed. And if you guys have anything else you'd like to share about mental health awareness or mental illness awareness, or your experience with mental health or mental illness, please do feel free to share that in the comments. And as always, do join me again next week, where I try again to share a little something I've learned in life.